Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News, or our monthly Ethereum update with our friend Anthony. So thanks for joining us again, Anthony.
All good. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I think our last month's update started to get a bit of traction. There's so much news to get through before we dive into it all, and we will try and timestamp this episode, guys, within a few hours of recording it and whatnot as well. Anything in particular that you want to cover just from that sort of general overview of what's been happening in the past month?
Oh, it's been crazy the last few weeks in Ethereum. There's been so many new projects launching, so much, I guess, like drama as well. We saw a few different bugs and kind of exploits slash hacks happening in DeFi, which I think at this point in time is like par for the course. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be, I like to call them sacrifices made to like the DeFi gods, so that people learn and we improve the contracts and everything like that. But yeah, I guess we're going to dive into a lot of what's happened over the past few weeks. So pretty excited to do that.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on that last time as well, that it is, as you say, par for the course, but it's when we find these bugs, if it's sort of in the betas and there's backup mechanisms to stop it getting nasty. I think we're getting better at that, but still we're talking large numbers a lot of the time because of how quickly DeFi has grown.
Yeah. I'd much rather it get caught, yeah, as you said, in like the alpha beta phase of a protocol when it's launched, rather than it get caught when the protocol has like millions in it, like we saw, I guess, happen with dForce, right? It had 25 million in it, and that got drained overnight. And in a twist of fate, that all got most of it got returned, which was quite funny as well. But that's not always going to happen, right? That $25 million was pretty much gone for at least a day, until the hacker was like, "Oh, I'm going to return all the funds."
100%. And yeah, I do want to start off there, but I guess I'll just say, from my point of view, looking at financial markets and what's going on in DeFi, there's talk of the US having to go negative with their interest rates soon. Even if DeFi rates have come down a little bit with their savings rates, to me, that's always been the final penny to drop. Once we have negative interest rates in the US, and maybe Australia has to follow suit, but you've basically got them sort of everywhere in all the big economies then. There's just so many more reasons for people to learn how to use this cool little app or this, that, or the other once there's negative interest rates. So all the stars are kind of aligning for DeFi in the background, even though crypto's in a bit of a nothing sort of market at the moment and whatnot as well. But let's start off with that story you just touched on. We had another DeFi hack in a product called I'm Bitcoin, which is one of those sort of ERC20 versions of Bitcoin, so we can use it on Ethereum. And from what I read, the hacker didn't cover his tracks well. So do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So apparently he leaked his IP address when he did the hack. Didn't use like a VPN or anything like that. And then I think he got scared, or it might have been a group of people. We don't know exactly who it was, but they might have got scared and be like, oh no, like we've been caught. We better just return the funds and everything will be okay. Since then, we haven't heard too much. The dForce team has actually been pretty quiet lately as well. I think they're licking their wounds, trying to make sure that everyone is made whole after the hack and everything like that. I think this is the same thing that happened with BZX, right? Where the exploit happened, there was all this drama for a few days, and then they went quiet and they're licking their wounds. And since then, their protocol hasn't really grown much, unfortunately. For obvious reasons, I guess. And I think the same is going to be happening with dForce's LendFMe project, because they have other products, but that was their lending product. So yeah, it was very unfortunate when that happened, but I guess like they got really lucky with the funds being returned.
Yeah. So I'm Bitcoin, for those people at home. You've probably heard of like wrapped Ethereum or wrapped Bitcoin when we put in an ERC20 version. This was another version of that. I think in our last month's episode, we touched on these different flavors. We might have also touched on the pies. So you can bring together these different versions of Ethereum and make a token out of them. So they have 4 different types. That hedges the risk. So this sort of it's the asset's made for this exact reason, and then it played out that way. So did you see what sort of happened behind the scenes there with the Bitcoin Pi and like how that affected it?
Yeah, so I guess like the Bitcoin Pies, there's like a project called PiDAO. So they make, I guess it's similar to Sets in a way, where it's like a basket of kind of tokens.
Yeah.
And yeah, the logic is like, I guess the BTC basket that they call it. The logic is that you have multiple tokenized BTCs or Bitcoins in one basket, and that that gives you less risk, because so you're not exposed 100% to one of these tokenized Bitcoins. So I didn't look into exactly what happened with the Pi itself, but I think it did work to like hedge the risk there. But they did have I'm BTC in the Pi, so they were affected by it. Every protocol was affected by it that had IMBTC. Even Uniswap had a market for IMBTC that got exploited the night before the dForce kind of stuff happened. And it was even listed on the Uniswap front end because it was assumed that IMBTC is not a scam or anything. It's actually a token that's created by IMToken, which is like a popular mobile wallet. So it's their product. But what ended up happening, I think, with dForce was that they didn't when they saw, when you see the Uniswap stuff happen with IMBTC, that was still exploitable in other protocols. So dForce should have paused their protocol and removed IMBTC so that this hack couldn't have happened. But they didn't do that, unfortunately, for one reason or another. I haven't seen them give any reasoning behind that, and that's why this massive kind of hack happened just the next day.
Okay, cool. So definitely something, again, where projects, we don't really have a standard for maybe a big red button that you push to let everyone in the DeFi space know that, hey, we need to close this down or it can get bad, sort of thing. So, yeah. Tying on from that, we've seen a few fluctuations. So I think the DAI USDC pair, both should be $1, and that's been fluctuating. I think got out to like $1.08 recently. So I'm sort of interested in tying these different projects together because there's lots of markets now, and you could even make a pie like we just described out of the different stable coins. And I'm wondering if there's also like a set or a smart contract where surely there's ways where we're going to arbitrage this and get better at keeping things at $1.
Yeah, I think there's lots of projects trying to do that at the moment. I know Curve Finance is a very popular project doing that at the moment. There's I think another one coming out called Shell Protocol. There's also one that I'm advising called mStable that's trying to do something like that as well. They're not public or anything yet. They don't have a product, but they're in early stages of development. And I think, definitely they're going to help to bring this stability to these different stable coins. But in the case of DAI being off its peg still, I think it's still at $1.02 or something off its peg, is simply because it's been known for a while that the demand for opening CDPs or vaults to generate DAI does not scale with the demand for DAI. They're two different parties. Like people who want DAI don't necessarily want to open a vault. It's like for me, I want to trade in DAI, but I don't want to go and open a vault or a CDP and take leverage out just to do that. So that's where the scaling issues come in, where there's too much DAI or not enough DAI to make the peg, stay at $1. That's why typically DAI is referred to as a soft peg, because there's not like something that you can, it's not like USDC, which is like a hard peg where that Coinbase has $1 backing up that one USDC in their bank accounts.
Yeah. And I know the DAI savings rate's been reduced to almost zero lately. Are there any other, like on their roadmap, what are the incentives? Because, we don't want DAI not to be worth $1 as we scale.
Yeah, I think that at this point in time, they really want people to be opening up more of these CDP/vaults, and that's why they're adding more collateral types. So we saw them add the Maker system add USDC to the Maker system to be able to for people to arbitrage that spread essentially between the stable coins. And then they're going to be adding, I think, Link next. They were talking about. They've already got basic attention token there, so I feel like they're going to keep adding more and more assets so that people can kind of unlock their assets and generate DAI with it. Whether that's to leverage or for any other reason. So that's definitely what I think we're going to see a lot of from Maker over the next few months to fix this DAI peg.
Yeah, that sort of leads into the next thing that we want to talk about, and that's these DeFi decentralized protocols that are integrating sort of semi-centralized coins. So for the Maker system to be fully decentralized and then integrate USDC, which is it sort of relies on banks at some point in time. If there's a large amount of money that gets frozen and it's not redeemable, whatever reason, that can harm smart contracts. Then the other day we saw Compound say they're going to integrate Tether. So there's all this sort of a little bit of weirdness going on. There's mixed feelings in the community a lot of the time. What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, so it's a hot debate right now for sure. I think in general, the DeFi term is more of a brand marketing term than a descriptive term. Pretty much like everything on that could be considered DeFi is not decentralized, right? Uniswap is pretty much like one of the only protocols that can be considered decentralized at this point in time. And I think that the more people that realize that DeFi is just a marketing brand term at this point, the better, because I like to refer to these protocols as like open finance, right? Because they're open to everyone. Even if you're banned from using the front end, say you're in the US or something, you can still use it through the smart contracts, right, on Ethereum. So it's still open. It's way more efficient and way more effective than the current traditional financial system, even if those kind of centralized restrictions are still there. So I think that something like compound adding Tether makes sense from a growth perspective for sure, because Tether's like I think 10 times more liquid than USDC in terms of like 10 times bigger market cap, and obviously a lot more liquid. It's on a lot more exchanges than USDC is. So from a growth perspective, it makes perfect sense. But from a systematic risk perspective, yeah, it's dubious, because there's been drama around Tether for many years now. It came out that it wasn't actually backed 1-to-1 not too long ago. So we're seeing this play out now, where some people are voting and saying, no, I don't want Tether added to Compound through their governance system. But they're the minority. I think it's like 90% for, 10% against right now in terms of how the weighted voting. But yeah, it's a hot debate, and I think that DeFi is the goal. Like fully decentralized finance is the goal, but like it's not going to work for every protocol. At set, like we've got USDC in most of the sets, right? So there are going to be centralization vectors, and then oracles. At the end of the day, every project uses oracles, which are pretty much like mostly centralized at this point in time as well.
Yeah, I know Coinbase added their Oracle price feed, which I'm sure is going to get integrated into Chainlink as well. Coinbase, I mean, there's that famous tweet where Brian Armstrong said that everything else is a distraction. And sure enough, he came around, and he's actually, I think, also been quoted as saying that he likes Ethereum more than Bitcoin, something along those lines. Then recently we saw them add more coins, and then the focus became very, I had my list of coins I think they're going to add, and they were all the leading ERC20s, and now they're integrating DeFi, and then they integrated the Ethereum name service. So Coinbase very favorably looking upon DeFi there.
Yeah. Coinbase is a friend to Ethereum and DeFi. I think we have like a few exchanges that really aren't, that are very hostile. That Binance is the top one for me, because they're trying to directly compete with Ethereum, right? Which is fine. Like every exchange has their own agenda at the end of the day. But I feel like Binance is trying to compete with everything, right? They're trying to get as big as possible. But Coinbase is definitely doing a lot of good for DeFi. They're integrating DeFi apps into the mobile wallet app. They're doing the USDC Bootstrap Fund, where they actually inject liquidity into different DeFi protocols. As you mentioned, they're doing their own Oracle now, which is really, really cool. So it's funny just watching the centralized players place their bets, essentially, like a chess game. It's like, I'm going to be on Ethereum, I'm going to be for myself, or I'm going to be like a Bitcoiner sort of thing.
Yeah, I have these worries. There's the Ethereum flash crash down to like 0. That was only in the 2017 or maybe 2018. But in that bull market, we saw Ethereum flash crash to almost 0 on Coinbase. So if they're an Oracle, that's still a bit of an issue, even though they're really liquid. There's other worries there. We might get into that another time. But what you mentioned about Binance Chain as well, when that first got announced, they were sort of the Ethereum competitor, and all ICOs would be done on Binance Chain, and then that really died off, and that DEX has almost got no traction. I remember doing a tutorial on it and looking at the way they'd sort of structured it, and they weren't even assets. So it was just like a centralized sort of back end, and people think that they're trading asset for asset, whereas Ethereum's just really taken their market share, and now they've launched this new smart contract blockchain. But I don't know, the network effects I think are just too strong. Like, how do they compete with that?
Yeah, I mean, not to kind of trash any project in particular, but I think any project that's trying to compete with Ethereum at this stage is just, it's an incredibly hard uphill battle. Even if you're Binance and you have all this, this user base and this network effect as well, it doesn't exactly translate over to a new protocol, right? And I'm a big fan of a lot of the protocols that are trying to do something different and not compete with Ethereum. Like, they're launching their own chain, but they are trying to go after different kind of like markets or different use cases, which probably aren't going to be as big as what Ethereum's going after. But you can still carve out your little niche and do something. There's a project called Helium. It's not available to us in Australia to buy these kind of like hotspots for it, but it's very popular because it allows people to become their own kind of like internet hotspot and mine this Helium token with it. And that's like a one single use case blockchain, and it's not something that Ethereum is going to try and do anytime soon. So those projects I'm a big fan of. But yeah, anything trying to compete with Ethereum is just reinforcing Ethereum's network effect. Because if that other chain fails to gain traction, people are just like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll just go build on Ethereum. So it's just, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed Icon yesterday, the day before, and they're talking about their sort of digital ID and certification, and they've got some businesses in Korea and whatever, and that's sort of, the target audience of real businesses, and you build your way out from there. But what we've seen with Ethereum is the network effects already starting to show of big corporates being friendly to the public blockchain, when a lot of that experimentation was with the private forks and, JP Morgan are never going to use this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden we've got all these people issuing bonds on the Ethereum public chain. So yeah, that's great to see.
Yeah. And I think on kind of network effects, I think DeFi is the biggest use case of blockchains, like finance in general. Like we've seen it play out with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, this store of value, digital gold narrative, it appeals to basically everyone. The total addressable market for finance is literally every single person on the planet, right? So you can't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, and when we talk about these derivatives at the moment, and it's just so interesting to me that we watch this play out, the physical gold market and the paper gold market is breaking, and a project like dYdX has just dissolved their DAO. But I think that's one of the great use cases, like making gold transparent rather than wondering if US has gold in Fort Knox or not. There was one of the world's oldest bullion dealers announced they're closing down today, which doesn't even make sense, like as a gold player that's in a gold bull market at the moment. So they're the cases. There was a great article, I'm not sure who it was by, you'll know, talking about how Ethereum's going to eat a lot of the traditional finances lunch. And we're already seeing that start to play out. dYdX, the decentralized derivatives platform, Futureswap, two great projects. And I know you want to talk about what they're doing.
Yeah. I think it was Ryan Sean Adams that spoke about Ethereum kind of eating Wall Street's lunch, essentially. And I think that's very true. You just mentioned like dYdX doing their derivative products. They're releasing a BTC USDC perpetual contract market soon at, I think it was like 10 times leverage. So that's basically going right up against BitMEX and other centralized players to bring that to Ethereum in a decentralized way. Futureswap actually had like a really interesting launch a week ago. I think they had like an alpha for 3 days, and it was a 20 times leverage exchange on Ethereum.
Yeah.
I think they had over $10 million worth of volume or something run through, millions in liquidity. And they're like, okay, well, we grew really fast, really big. This has been a really cool alpha after 3 days. So like, we're going to shut it down and we're going to be back soon. And it wasn't, they didn't shut down because it was a failure or anything. They just took like this really great risk-based approach where they're like, okay, this is a lot of volume really quickly into contracts that are still in alpha. Let's make sure that we pause here, revisit later. So yeah, there's just going to be so much more of this stuff. We're going to, like I've always said, we're going to rebuild the entire financial system on top of Ethereum, and literally everything that can be built will be built, and we'll have new financial primitives. We'll have new stuff like Uniswap and Curve Finance, all this stuff. Like this is not possible in the traditional finance system, no matter what you try to do.
100%. That's probably what I'm looking forward to most, like with your technical knowledge and even bringing guests in as well, and my sort of background understanding options and the financial markets. Like watching this come out play by play is just so exciting for me. And everyone knows that BitMEX has all that trading volume at the moment, but then the other day they had to shut down. We can soon trade from our hardware wallet. It's all going to be nice and secure. You don't have to worry about exchanges or freezes or anything like that. So sensible move to start off with that 10 and 20 times leverage for Futureswap, as you say. Close it down, have a look how it all worked. Question I did have about that, obviously matching engines on these exchanges struggle at the best of times. So with all these traders, they're not waiting for the Ethereum mainnet to process 15 transactions a second or whatever. So how are these platforms executing?
Yeah, so I think Futureswap was actually done all on chain. I think, okay. because it was an alpha. I don't think they went with like any of the scaling technologies that are available today. In terms of like scaling of like an exchange in general, the front runner here seems to be Loopring protocol. They have their own roll-up based exchange right now that's live, and you can go trade on there. You basically get to trade. I think like it's either hundreds or thousands of transactions a second inside these roll-up constructions, which is really, really cool. So they're the leaders here. I think that they're only one right now with a live product using this technology. But I think Futureswap, because it was an alpha, they just put it out there to see what happened, right? They're just like, let's put it out there. Let's see if it's actually popular. People want this. If so, we'll pause it and we'll come back later, which turned out really great for them. Like that's pretty much I think the most successful launch of a DeFi project in recent memory for me.
Okay, I might have to reach out to them and get a bit more of an insight for that technology for when they do scale. Other thing I had in my notes here was AZTEC ZK rollups with Plonk proofs. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but from what I read, they can do 100 transactions per second, private transactions as well, and that's shipping to mainnet soon.
Yeah, so AZTEC is doing a lot of great work around this. So people would have heard of ZK or zero knowledge proofs and as I said, rollups and things like that. That's very technical cryptography stuff. Like this is masterclass in cryptography, basically. I won't say that I understand how it works under the hood or anything, but you know, a lot of the smartest people I know are very excited about this tech. And as you said, this can do private transactions that can scale as well. And you can actually do what's called, I think it's called recursive zero knowledge proofs, where you can actually do zero knowledge proofs inside of zero knowledge proofs so that you can get even more scalability out of it. Which, you know, all the cryptographers that I follow, they're just getting really giddy about it. So this tech is definitely coming and is live in some capacity. AZTEC actually has their zero knowledge DAI, which is basically a wrapper around DAI. So that's live right now. You can go check it out. Just Google AZTEC protocol, it'll come up with it. But yeah, and that can be applied to pretty much everything, you know, on Ethereum, and is going to be applied to everything on Ethereum. I just think it'll take a bit more time because we're not at that bottleneck yet where, you know, we saw the gas prices shoot up for a day or so on Black Thursday, but they don't ever stay at like 200 Gwei, for example. They'll range between 1 to 10 Gwei. Which is bearable. If we see consistent demand where the network's at 100% capacity or over 100% capacity, then I think that we're going to see the protocols be like, okay, we need to hurry up with our scaling initiatives, not just wait. There are some protocols already taking, you know, the initiative and doing it now, like Synthetics has been doing some layer 2 stuff that they've been kind of quiet about, but they're like, you know, leaking information about. And as I said, Loopring as well. But you know, the next few months, couple years, I think we're going to see most of the other protocols get on board with this.
Sorry, get off mute there. Yeah, Synthetics, interesting. I didn't know that, but it was Gods Unchained that I know very early on seemed to have solved that issue. And I was calling it their secret sauce because they were being pretty tight-lipped about it. Do you know more about that? But they seem to be doing a lot of transactions per second with people trading their cards.
Yeah, I think they found a way to efficiently activate the cards, because when they sold the cards, you needed to activate them to turn them into tradable tokens on Ethereum. And I remember reading that they found a way, and I don't know if they released exactly what they did, but they found a way to do this in a really, really gas efficient way. And you can see it on chain, how they didn't spike the gas prices at all. It took a few days and they were able to activate, I think it was millions of cards for their players.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. So sticking with this theme of eating Wall Street's lunch, a couple more projects, Hegic and Opyn. So these are both using options for slightly different reasons. Hegic's more just for the pure trading of options, and Opyn's more for hedging risk, if my understanding is correct. So any thoughts on those two projects?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could both be used for hedging risk, but I'll start with Hegic. Hegic's a funny project because it launched and then a few days later, there was a bug discovered in it, and so I'll go through briefly what that is. So, as you said, Hegic's was an options trading platform. They launched, and then what happened was they discovered a typo in their code. That basically means that any funds that were in the contracts on this the specific options, when they expired, those funds would actually just be frozen forever. Which, you know, happened. The options expired, and then I think it was $28,000 worth of ETH and DAI and all that was frozen permanently. The team is going to cover that for the users that are affected by it, which is really cool. But yeah, that project's offline at the moment because of that. I think they're going to fix their contracts and redeploy. But yeah, as you said, Opyn is another project that's doing options, but they're trying to go after the more insure against like risk and kind of like and loss by using their options. So like I guess it's not a competitor to Nexus Mutual, like how Nexus Mutual does on-chain insurance or that. I don't think they like to call it insurance. It's more like just, you know, protecting yourself. But yeah, so I think they're more complementary there with the options. But most people I've seen on Twitter talking about DeFi, they're really excited about these options platforms. It's just unfortunate that Hegic had to shut down so fast after they launched because they had a lot of fanfare like really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting at with the Nexus Mutual, which we've covered a lot on the channel. in terms of insurance for smart contracts. The front end, from what I saw with Opyn, wasn't really like this options trading platform. It was more, what type of risk do you want to hedge at, what price and what not. So a sort of slightly different approach. And in crypto, we have huge tail risk, which is kind of what options are all about. And in traditional markets, we saw people just forget about options because the market only ever went up. So who would want to protect from downside? And options got stupidly cheap and no one was even buying them. And that was the extreme that marked the top of the market that we spoke about at the time. You might have heard us talk about the put to call ratio. So all these things are going to be awesome for the crypto world. Everyone from miners, Ethereum stakers, you want to hedge your risk. If you want to lock up a lot of tokens, you can't afford for them to fall. And you'll be able to do all this from your hardware wallet nice and securely. I can't wait to do tutorials and all this stuff once it's fully out. But any final thoughts on those couple?
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained it well. Options, I think traditionally, they're very financy products that most people would not have heard of before. Like for me, for example, I come from a technical background. I've had to learn what options and puts and calls were over the last few weeks. Still not like totally, get it or whatever. It takes a while to really understand it. But once you do, they're very powerful instruments. They're powerful instruments, but with great power comes great responsibility. And as you were saying, there's different market conditions where holding a certain option is going to be really bad for you or really good for you, and you have to know how to kind of hedge that. But yeah, I think one thing I like on that note that I'm really excited about is just more people are going to learn what these things are, and we're going to have better, more informed investors within the crypto space.
100%. Well, if I'll give you a 101, the easiest way that I've found to explain it, and for people at home as well, you don't want to get in the business of selling options until you're an advanced trader. That way you kind of become like a market maker, and there's all sorts of risk when you start selling other things to people when you don't really know what they are and understand the risk. But when you're buying options, there's the puts and the calls. A call, you can think of it as you want to call up the broker or your exchange in your imagination. Think of it this way. Call up and you want to be able to buy at that price. So if you buy the Ethereum 200 call in for the end of the year, if Ethereum goes to $1,000, you say, great, I get to call up and buy that for 200. That was a good trade. A put, I think of it as put it into the market. So you might buy the 200 Ethereum put for the end of the year, and you want to protect yourself from downside. So if Ethereum went down to $100, you get to ring up or go to the exchange and you get to put it into the market, and someone has to buy it off you for 200. So that's my 101 options explanation. Next up here, Reddit points. Now, I know we had good old donuts. I had a heap of those, and I logged in one day and they were gone. So I must have missed an upgrade or something there. But now Reddit themselves look like they want to go to some sort of crypto point system.
Yeah, I think so. Originally, there was the donuts thing, as you mentioned, on ETH Trader, the subreddit. But I think what happened with that is there was a lot of drama that came out of that because people were someone created a bridge where you could actually trade these donuts on Uniswap, and they actually had like a pretty high market price at one point.
Yeah.
So people were like, trying to do things, spamming the subreddit, trying to get more donuts and things like that. And then we had the whole fallout between ETH Trader and ETH Finance, where the moderators split off into ETH Finance. And I think like ETH Traders, there's never been the same sort of thing. So it's been a weird thing. I haven't kept up too much with it. I don't spend as much time on Reddit as I used to. Yeah. But Reddit is definitely wanting to do more of this crypto point stuff. I think there was I think it's more of a leak. It wasn't an official announcement. It was a leak of like a crypto point system that Reddit was experimenting with that was very similar to donuts, where you could earn points for doing different things, and maybe that could be used for governance purposes or whatever. I mean, it's funny because like we've seen this play out with Steam as well. The Steam blockchain, they had their own drama where they forked off because of the Justin Sun Binance kind of attempted takeover.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see more social media play with a point system. I'm not convinced that it works just yet, because I've seen a lot of manipulation go on with bots buying and whales buying and selling votes, and bots just dominating these platforms. People posting content just to get points, right? They're not posting anything that's relevant. They're just like posting heaps so they can get more points and sell it for real money or whatever. But yeah, I want to see more experiments play out, and Reddit doing it is just a kind of tick of approval, which is really cool.
Yeah, 100%. I saw the other day, Hive jumped like 800%, and I was like, what on earth is this? And then I put two and two together. So good that the community have actually kept that platform decentralized out of Justin Sun's hands. But even Steam it, as you say, the whales got in early. A lot of the other platforms I post to now, you put up a post and there'll be like all these bots commenting. So yeah, you've got to maybe do some sort of ID system or make them generate a unique Ethereum address and keep $1 in it of ETH or something. Yeah, get around the gaming of the system. ETH 2.0 testnet. So this is what everyone's getting exciting about. We had lots of people, lots of addresses that have accumulated 32 ETH ready to go, but we had a lot of people depositing and practicing on the testnet. So you want to talk us through all that?
Yeah. So big milestone in April. Actually, two big milestones in April happened. So Prismatic Labs, one of the lead ETH2 client development teams, launched their what they called their Topaz testnet, which is the testnet for ETH2 phase 0. So, this is basically, I think, the second final testnet. The final one will be a multi-client testnet, but this one was launched. It has the full mainnet configuration, which means that this is what's going to mainnet when we launch ETH2, the actual thing later this year. You can, on the testnet, you can stake your 32 test ETH. You can begin earning rewards that are tuned exactly how they'll be on mainnet. You in your validator client and your the beacon node that you run on your PC, you can see how they interact, how they work, and everything exactly as it will be on mainnet. So that was a huge thing that happened in April. And then a few days ago, there was a tweet that two of the clients, Sigma Prime's Lighthouse and Prismatic Labs' Prism client, are talking to each other, not as part of a long-lived multi-client testnet, but as part of just getting them to talk to each other, because before we can launch mainnet, we need these different clients to be able to talk to each other and run without a hitch. Then we can turn over to mainnet. So it's pretty much, it's really close. But I know there's a lot of words in there, a lot of technical stuff in there that people who don't know, and I'll let you explain it a bit as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, again, even for my knowledge, I was going to say, is the best way for people at home to think of this when you say multi-client testnet, it's almost like we want Apples and Samsungs to be able to sort of talk to each other and communicate and sync up. And are the different clients have slightly different use cases, or why are there different clients?
Yeah, so ETH1, I'll go back to how ETH1 works today. It has different clients on it as well. If we even go back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin has one main client, the Bitcoin core client, but theoretically anyone can build a client as long as they build it to the spec of Bitcoin. So as long as it still has the parameters like, there can only be 21 million Bitcoin, it has the same mining algorithm, as long as it's Bitcoin, the Bitcoin spec, it can talk to the other clients. And it's the same with Ethereum. The ETH1 clients, the code that they have can be optimized for different things. So there was like the Parity and Geth clients on ETH1. Parity is now open Ethereum. Actually, it was forked off, but Parity used to be better, I think, for miners, and then Geth used to be better for people just running nodes at home. And there's different optimizations these clients can do. They can optimize to be easier to run on people's hardware. They can take up less storage on people's hardware, things like that. And that's why we want multi-clients. That's one of the reasons why. Another reason is that we get rid of the risk of having only one client. For people who saw recently, the reason why Parity client is now called Open Ethereum is because Parity basically are building Polkadot, a competitor network to Ethereum, right? And they basically said, we're not going to be supporting the Parity Ethereum client anymore. So if anyone wants to support it, they have to, fork it off and support it that way. So that would be a really shitty situation if they were the only client, right?
Yeah.
But because we have multiple clients, it means that Parity wasn't 100% of the network. They were like 40% of the network. And then people were able to go to the Geth client without having to rely on this single point of failure. So that's the other logic behind it. And that's why Ethereum has a culture of multi-client multi-client culture, whereas Bitcoin is like a single client. Let's make the Bitcoin core client the best it can be, down to like the smallest code efficiencies that we can get out of it, and just trust that the Bitcoin core client doesn't get corrupted or something.
Okay. So yeah, it's basically saying, well, anyone can build and create software to execute programs on Ethereum, and you've just got to stick to these set of rules, the specs or the specifications, and then you just got to make sure they all sort of communicate properly and whatnot. And we're getting to those final stages on the Ethereum 2.0 testnets. And I think the final thing I wanted to add was we've seen really good performance from the tokens that are yielding and staking. Everyone's baking these Tezos, and Cardano's mainnet's finally here and whatnot. So I just think it's going to be another huge driver. We've got DeFi behind Ethereum. Once people can get out there at 32 ETH, or if you've got less than that, I'll do videos on the pools and whatnot. Once you can get that yield, there was an ETH calculator came out the other day. I think people are going to be really attracted to that. Again, negative interest rate environment is just another reason. So the stars are aligning.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually just thought of another analogy to use for to explain what multi-client kind of testnets are, how they work is people, use torrents, right? At the end of the day, you use different torrenting applications like BitTorrent or uTorrent. They all conform to the same BitTorrent spec. So they're different clients, but they do the same thing. That's I think a really good way of explaining exactly, what a multi-client testnet would look like.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Next up, unless you had anything else, I think, what have I got on my list here? The sets performance. So in terms of performance, the market's kind of been just compressing its volatility. I think there's a big move coming, but there was a good study out about what's been performing best, and sets that you actually do some work with have been performing really well.
Yeah, so Xerion put out basically a blog post saying comparing different DeFi protocols for how much money you could have made on each of them for I think the first 3 months of 2020, and Set came out on top. They only did 2 of the sets. I think it was the ETH 20-day moving average and the ETH 50-day moving average. They didn't do the other ones that hadn't been out for the full 3 months of this year, but they came out way ahead of all the other protocols, simply because I think. Well, I mean, sets are inherently going to make you more money or lose you more money, right? Because they're a lot riskier than just putting money into a lending protocol. You might earn like 3 or 4% on your USDC, but with a set, if it makes a good trade, you might make 20% in that trade or something like that. So that's why I think we've seen, that outperformance happen. But I think in general, people do need to take into account like risk-adjusted returns. I don't think many people in DeFi think about risk at all. It's very risky to be in a set compared to a lending protocol because of the fact that you can lose money. It's not guaranteed to make you money. It's like any trade. It could make a bad trade and then you could lose 20% of your money over a few days or something, right? A lending protocol, the worst that can happen is, if it gets hacked, of course, is a risk, but that's also a risk for set. But and also if the rates just drop and you're not going to lose money, but you're just going to make less than what you put in. So I think that this report was good, but I do want people to think more about risk and where they're allocating their funds and how much risk they want to take on.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting over time to see how that data stacks up, whether or not it actually does become a bit of a zero-sum game or whether or not in a trending market they perform really well, volatile and whatnot. So, yeah, that's what I'm excited to see with those set tokens where you can deploy strategies to outperform the market, hopefully. Gitcoin, we got that grant up and running just in time. We got a few hundred DAI, which is about 500 Aussie dollars. So thanks to everyone there. That means that we can put some more time and I can get one of my guys to do even more Ethereum research. And the list keeps growing longer here, Anthony, of everything that we've got to go over. So, just quickly, we've got Kyber's going really well. They've got that big Katalyst upgrade. 0x has been going well. They've got... what was the name of the Matcha, bringing together all that liquidity. Compound's got their governance token out. So yeah, DeFi and all these sort of trading dexes, they've just really taken off lately.
Yeah, it's exploded. It really has. I think the reason why most people are bullish about DeFi is the potential for growth here, right? If you think about it, you mentioned it earlier, we're still so small, so small. Like we like to think that we're bigger than what we are, but we're really not. And that's a positive thing to me because we have so much potential for growth here. And all these new products coming online and getting all this volume running through them just shows that there's appetite for it. And we're getting better at valuing these things. If we talk about like the tokens that have been going up, like KNC's been going up lately because they readjusted their token economics and there's actually ways to value it now. 0x did the same thing. There's a few other protocols like Aave with Lend as well has been on a tear lately. And I think that actually came out of Synthetics' model too. People are like, oh, Synthetics, cracked it. They cracked the code. This is what we should do. And then all these other protocols are following, which just is even better because you get an army of people who hold your token, who have upside in using your product and upside in holding a token for using your product and for other people using it. So it's just this perfect storm coming together lately of DeFi. It's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, and I know we had a lot of very happy members because we have been doing a lot of the research reports on the DeFi projects, and Kyber was one that we covered in a lot of detail when it was like 10 or 15 cents, and it's just been on an absolute tear there as well. Just quickly, a bit of a laugh. We had Tron come out with a platform that was an absolute like rip-off, copy-paste, the front end and the back end of synthetics. So I'm not sure if they're going to call that Syntronics. But, no shame there. Some people are saying, well, it's open source. You can do whatever you want. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw they copied Maker as well. I find it funny when people say it's open source. It's like, yeah, okay, it's open source, but open source doesn't mean you can just copy the code. This actually happened with dForce as well. Like their lending protocol, they copied Compound's code, and Compound's code's actually copyrighted. Just because it's open source doesn't mean it's free to use. So there's different open source licenses, right? Okay. I won't go into like detail about every license, but there's licenses that say, okay, you can use this and sell it for your own benefit, or you can use this but only for free. You can't make money off it, okay. Or you can't use this even though you can see the code. So there's different licenses that come into it. And, even if the license says you can use this code, it's free to use, and Tron was to copy it, they're not only copying the backend code, they're just ripping off the entire interface. Like that's not open source culture at all. That's like just copying someone else's work, which, maybe I guess in China they have that culture. Like, not to generalize here, but they are known for copying, right? For copying a lot of things, ripping off, like not in just crypto and everything. And, Justin Sun doing it is no surprise. He's done it with Tron. Tron's was a fork of Ethereum, right? Ethereum J, the client for Ethereum. And he's done it with like other projects and stuff like, BitTorrent and stuff, like just he bought it, and then it's just all this mess of stuff that happens. So I thought it was funny. I didn't expect anything more from him there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get a lot of traction. A couple other really cool little projects. PoolTogether that we've covered, the No Loss Lottery, have now got pods. So you can, like basically a syndicate, like you join your Tatslotto syndicate at work. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, bringing syndicates to, this no loss lottery concept is definitely very powerful because syndicates are extremely popular, in the traditional world. So yeah, I thought that was really cool to see.
I put on Twitter the other day, someone said US has a gambling problem, and I put up the Australian stats, and it's like 50% of some demographics in Australia buy a lotto ticket every week. Like the numbers are insane in Australia. I don't think they've heard of PoolTogether yet. But,
no, not yet.
Dharma, their social pay app. So Ethereum name service is cool because we can pay each other's names that we buy, readable names rather than those long addresses. But now we've got Dharma where you can pay people's like Twitter handles and stuff as well.
Yeah. So Dharma is, I think, becoming the regular kind of like regular people kind of like layer for DeFi, where they're just like, this is going to look like a Venmo or something, or another app that you would use, but it's going to be built on Ethereum and DeFi. So their social payments app lets you basically send USD in stable coins to people, on Twitter using their Twitter name, which is, we've seen all these tipping bots in the past, so like these Bitcoin tipping bots that have been out for ages, like the Dogecoin one from back in the day as well. But Dharma is trying to go one step further and make it a non-custodial thing where they don't actually hold any funds for the users. The users can just do it all on their own from the app, which is really cool.
Yeah, even with BAT, it's still very hard to like tip people. And if you didn't know what was going on, then you've got to sign up and whatnot. So hopefully this is a lot more user-friendly. OpenSea, we mentioned before. I did think I read that they had a big upgrade, but if you haven't checked out OpenSea, it's like a decentralized Gumtree or NFT style platform, really.
Yeah. So OpenSea is like a platform to buy and sell these NFT like collectibles for games. Like as we spoke about before, like Gods Unchained cards are on there. Any of the other crypto games and stuff like that. So even some like art, like digital art and things like that.
Super rares,
well. Yeah. So like super rares and things. And we're actually seeing more of this stuff come online. I don't know if you have it in your notes there, but we have like different new limited edition collectibles, like digital collectibles coming out that actually represent physical goods, like uni socks that came out like a few months ago, where you could trade these socks as tokens, but they're actually physical socks. And then we had Saint Fame, which is like a DAO, which is producing like hype streetwear sort of thing. You can think of it like a Kanye, style streetwear. And they're tradable on Ethereum as a token, but there's still a physical good attached to that. So we're seeing a lot of these kind of like collectible stuff like really take off lately.
Yeah, and we've been talking about the need to increase the market cap to increase what DeFi can do, basically, because you're limited to how big whatever's backing it is. And this is where it gets really interesting when we talk about things like RealT. So tokenizing property. Property is the biggest asset class on the planet. It's actually bigger than the bond market. So if we can tokenize property, and I can sit here and say, well, I want to do some lending, but I'll put my house to back it, because I know my house, even in the worst case scenario, my property's not going to fall 90% like Ethereum or something is that's sitting behind it. So all of a sudden, once we can tokenize real world assets, DeFi gets very interesting very quickly.
Yeah, RealT, I love that project. I really do. A big fan of David Hoffman and his work in Ethereum. For those who know him, he works at RealT. It's like a driver of them there. But I'm fully with you. Even though like when you tokenize a real world asset, like real estate or something, it's not like the token entitles you to basically the ownership and everything. There is paperwork in the background and stuff, but what the token does is it allows you to invest in markets that you wouldn't normally be able to invest in. I am able to hold, like I've got some RealT tokens. I'm able to hold these tokens that represent a claim on some US property and the tax revenue from that, the rent from that property. So I'm earning rent from a US, a property in the US. And it's funny because US property is the first bit of property that I've actually even owned. Like I don't even own property in Australia. So it's just, it opens up the real estate market to the entire world. Like no matter where you are, you can buy a piece of real estate in a different country without going through all the red tape. You just buy the token on the RealT website. Yes, there's KYC, but that's all you do. You KYC, then they handle it all for you in the background, all the paperwork and stuff like that, which is really cool.
So, I mean, even just there, like you and I have sort of highlighted two very different reasons why we're excited about this stuff. And that's going down the security token path where you've got to register and whatnot. But this is what the big hope was 2 years ago, that security tokens would take off. And you log into this interface and you want to buy a bit of property, like Anthony said, and get some stream from some rent, and just getting access to companies and businesses and ideas that normally would be just a nightmare, if not impossible, for the average retail investor that's in a different country. They're not accredited. The paperwork's too hard. Hopefully it's going to become really frictionless.
Yeah, exactly. There's still going to be restrictions, I think, depending on where you live. Like if you're in a sanctioned country, you're not going to be able to buy US property, right? So there are going to be restrictions, but it still opens it up and grows the pie more than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah. I think we're down to the last couple of things that I wanted to cover. Maker getting sued. This sort of gets back to what we were talking about before about, well, what's decentralized, what's not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think like for those who probably think, how can it like Maker get sued, right? It's like a protocol. It's good to make the difference here that it's the Maker Foundation that was getting sued. So the Maker Foundation are like the stewards of the protocol. They created the protocol, but they're trying to decentralize it. It's like the Ethereum Foundation. They exist to fund development, but they don't control Ethereum. So it's the same with Maker. But yeah, people are kind of suing them for losses incurred in Black Thursday that we spoke about last time, how some vaults basically had no collateral left and were left with nothing because the bids came in at zero DAI for their collateral. Yep. I'm not sure, where this lawsuit's going to go. I think they're suing for $28 million worth of damages. And then after, this came out, the Maker holders were going to vote on if they would print some more MKR tokens to make up some of the losses incurred by the vault holders. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it does speak to like, if you're suing this foundation, does that put pressure on them to do this decentralized vote, right, on Maker to print more tokens to cover up the losses? And it gets very messy. I don't really know if it's going to go anywhere, to be honest, because they're claiming that Maker misrepresented the risks. But if you read the fine print, it does say that you're not guaranteed to get back anything, right, if you're liquidated, because that's just how the system works. But to be fair, they didn't make that obvious. There wasn't any big red text on their site saying you could lose everything. It was basically saying, okay, well, normally you would only lose 13% in a penalty, and you'd get back, everything that you didn't have to sell to pay down your debt. So yeah.
That is a complicated one, and you don't want it setting a precedent for other things or whatnot as well. I would assume that a lot of the maker guys could probably cover that amount of money if they really wanted to, but we'll see what happens there. I think that's everything I had on my list. There's a lot going on. I'm sure we'll have... actually, one thing I wanted to mention just quickly was the Gnosis. So another prediction market. They got out their DEX, but they also launched some coronavirus prediction markets.
Yeah. So I don't think they've actually launched them themselves. I think they're funding them. So they've put like seed capital into these coronavirus prediction markets because they want to see if the crowd can actually predict what, case numbers will be next month or what the death rates will be next month, which I think is, cool is probably the wrong word to use because obviously I don't want, obviously it's like a really crappy situation, but it's an innovative way, I think, of trying to gauge more information about these things, and maybe sometime in the future, maybe like way into the future, scientists can use this wisdom of the crowds eventually to inform their decisions about future, pandemics and things like that. So yeah, it was really cool to see those go live and actually have skin in the game too with the real money.
Yeah, I know Augur, the other prediction market, has another upgrade coming out soon. So the concept of wisdom of the crowd for Augur and Gnosis is very cool. But I just think it's a horrible example to use because it's to the point now in most countries where they're not even too worried about testing. They just know it's out there. So one day they might decide to conduct 1 million more tests than the previous day. So picking the case numbers and testing positives doesn't really mean much. But anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I kind of said the same thing. Like Eric, my co-founder of ETHub, works at Gnosis, is a product manager there, and I said to him, I'm like, it depends on a few different factors, and he's like, yeah, but he thinks that people will take those factors into account when placing their bets, and that will actually, make it more accurate. I'm like, oh, I can see that, but we'll have to see it play out for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Eric, it wasn't trash talking. Okay, cool. Well, guys, that's probably been an hour there. Fantastic. I did want to make these a bit longer. I think that's the feedback we got because there's so much to cover. So, any final thoughts, Anthony? And we'll chat again next month.
Yeah, I think we covered most of the big stuff that happened over the past few weeks. And yeah, it's great to see the comments on the video from last month that people were saying they wanted us to do more of this because, yeah, I'm always down to talk more Ethereum and especially to people who don't normally, follow Ethereum to get them involved. So yeah, definitely excited for next month to see what's coming.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Hope you've enjoyed that. I'll put the links to follow Anthony down below and we'll catch you next month. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.